We have a new moon in Libra coming up on October 21st, and there is plenty to talk about around this new moon. So let's get started. My name is Crystalline Sophia. I'm your friendly astrological magician and mystic, and I want to talk to you about the astrological details around interpreting this new moon in an astrological context, but then also how we can use the energy of this moon in a folk magic context to work with it and be in alignment with everything that this new moon has to offer. So let's dive in and see what we're looking at. Okay, so as you can see, this new moon is happening on October 21st at around 8:30 a.m. East Coast time. So adjust that to your time zone and you will get the time that this moon is perfecting for you. And so what we're looking at is, of course, the moon and the sun conjunct each other in Libra. When the moon and the sun are conjunct, it means that the moon is not able to be lit up by the sun from our perspective. So the moon is dark and blared out by the beams of the sun. Therefore, it is a new moon. There is no moon in the sky. And so for the next day and a half or so, the moon will be invisible to our eye, and then it will start creeping in again, and we will get that crescent moon moving forward towards a full moon in the waxing phase. So what we're seeing here is a new moon that is not really interacting with a lot of other planets. We see that we're separating from Jupiter with a square here. And it says that there's a square going on with Pluto here, but Pluto is at the first degree of Aquarius, which is an air sign. And the moon and the sun are very far from the first degree of Libra. They are already in the 28th. So that square should actually be sending its beam over here. And so since it's so far separate, I actually wouldn't consider this really something that is at play. Many aspects have occurred since then, and it's just not very close of an aspect for us to consider. So what we can look at, though, is the next aspect the moon will make. And in this case, if you look at all the planets and say which planet is the earliest in a sign that is actually going to have an aspect with the sun and the moon, they are at the 28th degree. So they are separating the most from Jupiter, which was at 24 degrees. You might think it would be Saturn, but Saturn is averse to them. Saturn is in that blind spot from their tail light, so to speak. If we think about this as a car and this is the windshield, these two are blind spots, and then opposite of that, this is the back window, and these two are also blind spots. So Saturn is in the blind spot of this lunation, as is Mars and Mercury. And Venus is back here. She is not making an aspect to them in any kind of recent time. We have Jupiter, who made the most recent one, like we're saying. So we're going to actually look for when the moon and the sun cross over into Scorpio, what is the next aspect they get? And now Venus is averse. So is Jupiter is in trine, but it's going to take a while. In fact, the sun and the moon will run into Mars before anybody else. It's a very close tie between Mars and Mercury, but the moon will move into conjunction with Mars as the very next aspect it will make with one of the seven visible planets. So thinking about this moon that happens in Libra, but is moving towards a Mars energy, we see that the ruler of the lunation, Venus, is in her domicile. She is also in Libra. So she has a condition considered chariot, where the sun and Venus are in Venus's domicile. And so she gets that extra oomph to her condition. So the person who is running the show of this new moon is doing very well. In fact, she is also unafflicted by Mars and by Saturn. And she's receiving this very loose overcoming square from Jupiter, but it's still supportive because benefics work with benefics in benefic natures, even when they are squaring each other, because they can only do the benefic thing. So this is considered by many ancient astrologers to still be a very supportive situation. So Venus is doing great at this point, and she is ruling this new moon lunation. Then we think about, okay, where does it end up? How does the matter resolve? That's that next aspect of the moon that we're talking about when we look at Mars. Mars is also in domicile in Scorpio. When the moon makes it to Scorpio, the moon will be in fall there. And that's kind of a rough place for the moon to be. So we can see how the aspects and the natures of Libra come through very strongly here. Libra saying we need to find balance between things, not create balance, right? We need to witness the balance. Libra is the scale between the two plates. It is not Libra's responsibility to make them balance by throwing a piece of itself one way or another. It is to say what will create balance and allow that to fall into place. So one of the stereotypes of Libra is that the energies or people with heavy energies of Libra can sometimes sacrifice too much of themselves in order to create balance. It can help to remember that as a Libran archetype, you are the scale in between. You can see where balance is possible and then maybe delegate, delegate where that balance can come in. So that's what we want to think about here. Where can we see where balance is necessary? And then knowing that we have this energy coming up, this actionable energy of Mars in Scorpio being sort of the next steps that come after it. So what we might notice is that throughout this week, which has a lot of transits and a lot of movement happening, the sun is going to move into Scorpio. Mars and Mercury, as we see, are conjunct each other. Mercury is entering the shadow phase of its next retrograde already. And so there's just a lot going on. Pluto is now stationed direct. So many things are happening. We see Neptune is about ready to move back into Pisces in their retrograde. Lots of change is happening on big scales here. And so it may be one of those situations where we're noticing society is doing a lot. And we have to just remember my reaction, my feelings, and my thoughts in response to what I am learning, in response to what I am reading, in response to what I am watching, are my biggest hints to what my values are, to what I need to feel balanced, to what action feels most aligned to me. And so when we see this Venus energy of balance and your values being challenged by that upcoming Mars energy, it's what do you feel? What does that mean for you? Where does this really come from? How can you interview your emotions and your thoughts and your feelings so that when that action comes, it's not a reaction. It's not something that you're doing out of rage or any kind of feeling that doesn't feel like it's in your control. It's a response that you have already decided comes from who you are. And that's going to be a really important thing during this lunation and during this week. It's going to start a cycle that you have a year to discover until the next new moon in Libra, which will happen next year around the same time. And in 6 months, when we get that full moon in Libra, during the time that the sun will be in Aries, so in about the March, April time period, we will get some kind of a culmination in what we are starting right now. So keep an eye out for that and know that you have plenty of time to let that grow and develop. So if you are someone with really prominent Libra placements or with Venus as your time lord this year, or if you have prominent placements in the other cardinal signs, those cardinal signs, of course, being Libra, but also being the signs that are square and opposite to Libra, which are Capricorn, Aries, and Cancer, then you may notice that you feel this a little bit more than average. People around you may not notice it as much as you do, but you have these placements that are interacting with this lunation in a very actionable way. So you may notice it more if you have one of the cardinal signs as your rising sign, or a lot of planets in a cardinal sign, or if Venus is your time lord this year, since she is the ruler of this lunation. And so again, the best practice that you can do this week is to be aware, notice the feelings that you have throughout the day, throughout the week. When you see something, how does it make you feel? And when you have that feeling, take a pause and say, what are my thoughts around this feeling? What do those thoughts tell me about my beliefs? What are my beliefs? And do I like what I'm believing, or do I like what I'm showing myself about my values? Or is that something that I would like to grow and cultivate? In this way, you will be doing the greatest type of magic, which is your own personal development towards understanding what drives you, what motivates you, and what is the foundation of your beliefs and your values, which really lead to the types of magic that you align with and all of those things. So a great spell or affirmation that we can look at this week is I am clear about my passions and values. I am clear about my passions and values. I know who I am. I know what my boundaries are. I know what I will tolerate. I know what I will not tolerate. I know what my favorite color is. I know what my favorite food is. All of those things, simple as they may seem, help you to really discern and decide who you are, what you stand for, and what you won't stand for. So this is the thing that we get to learn and really discover and really dig our fingers into. This is the time of planting seeds. So feel free to decide to make changes, to try something new, to to let something begin to grow within you this week. Take that time to really discern who you are, what makes you you, and learn how much you love that about yourself. Learn what makes you proud of who you are. And again, do not forget to honor your own boundaries. It is not cruel to say that you need boundaries in your own life. It is great, it is wonderful, and it helps people know who you are so that they can interact with you in a way that shows the acceptance they have for you. It draws the people to you that accept you for who you are and do not ask you to change or adapt to them in an overextending sort of way. So I hope that this new moon on the 21st brings a lot of revelation about what is important to you, what you love the most, and what actions go along with that that make you feel empowered and make you feel connected in the deepest and best ways. Have a wonderful new moon.